It's Monday, December 1st. This is CTV at 6. Here's what's making news tonight. Premier Holt reacts to having to cut her plan to cut a gas tax. There's a rush to buy American booze while supplies last in Nova Scotia.
A coastal storm brings heavy snow, rain, and high winds to the Maritimes midweek.
Live from our Maritimes News Center, this is CTV News at 6. Here is Todd Battis.
Good evening. We're going to begin on this Monday night with an unusual development at Moncton Court. 5 people accused of conspiracy to commit murder in connection with the homicides of a Dieppe couple in 2019 were supposed to appear in a courtroom this morning. CTV's Derek Haggett explains what happens next.
5 people, 4 men and 1 woman, charged with conspiracy to commit murder were scheduled to make a court appearance here at the Moncton Law Courts this morning. However, only 4 did. Jansen Brian Baker, Jesse Todd Logue, Nicholas Daniel Bain, Christopher Allen Lennon, and Monique Alicia Boyer were charged on November 24th with conspiracy to commit the murder of Silvio Sagne, the son of Bernard and Rose Marie Sagne. The bodies of 78-year-old Bernard Sagne and 74-year-old Rose Marie Sagne were found in their Dieppe home on September 7, 2019. Police ruled their deaths as homicides. 29-year-old Jansen Brian Baker of Moncton was charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder on September 7, 2023, and is scheduled to go to trial in January. Baker and Lennon made in-person court appearances today, while Logue and Boyer appeared via video teleconference. Bain, who wasn't in custody and who was a no-show, had a warrant issued for his arrest. The 4 accused who were in court will remain in custody and will return on January 5th. The Crown objected to their release. Silvio Sagne died in 2023, but police say foul play was not suspected in his death. Around 10 supporters of the Sagne family were in court this morning. Afterwards, they spoke briefly with reporters outside the courthouse, but politely declined interview requests. Derek Haggett, CTV News, Moncton.
A Halifax area youth has been sentenced for fatally stabbing a high school student last year. The 16-year-old accused, who was 14 at the time of the attack, received the maximum sentence, 4 years in custody and 3 years of conditional supervision. But that sentence has been reduced by 12 months for time served. In January, the accused pleaded guilty to the second-degree murder of a 16-year-old Ahmed Maher Al-Marak. He was fatally stabbed in April 2024 in the parkade of the Halifax shopping centre. A man has been charged with second-degree murder following a homicide last week in Halifax's North End. Last Wednesday morning, police responded to calls of an injured man on Gottingen Street. He was rushed to hospital where he later died. The victim has been identified as 59-year-old Troy Clayton. Over the weekend, police announced 30-year-old Aaron James Johnson had been charged with second-degree murder. He appeared in a Halifax courtroom today. There's a live look at Civic Square in Truro, where it's currently 2 degrees, dressed up for Christmas. Looks like we might be in for a very cold night. Kayla Mitchell joining us now. Just how cold might it get?
Ooh, several degrees below zero for many parts of the Maritimes, and minus double digits for a few communities, or many communities, I should say, especially in New Brunswick. We could take a look at that cold air moving in already in Edmundston in the northwest New Brunswick, already down to around -9. We've got -5 now at Bathurst, -4 at Doketown, and -5 at Woodstock. This colder air is being brought in out of Quebec by this northwest wind, and it is tied up into something that we were talking about last week, and that is the polar vortex. Remember, it weakened and it was going to be shifting a little bit. Part of the polar vortex centered now over Hudson Bay, bringing in some bitterly cold temperatures around parts of Nunavut, northern areas of Manitoba, northern areas of Ontario, and important for us here in the Maritimes, northern areas of Quebec, because anytime we get to a northwest wind, it's going to tap into some of that polar sourced air and bring it down into our region. That's exactly what's happening tonight, and it's what's going to happen at the end of this week as well, with a fresh round moving in Thursday night into Friday. And then after that, it looks looks like even a third round will arrive at the end of the weekend. It'd be Sunday night into the start of next week, Monday. So this first part of December looks like it's going to be on the colder side for the region. Now, having that cold air in place, we have to take note of that because we've got a big developing coastal storm that's on its way up the eastern seaboard of the United States for late Tuesday into Wednesday. It's starting its development now as it's making its way through the southeastern U.S. It'll be moving towards the position of the eastern seaboard and strengthening quite rapidly over the next 24 hours. In fact, probably heard in some U.S. media it's being referred to as a bomb cyclone. That does mean that the central pressure of the storm is going to be falling by 24 millibars or more in 24 hours or less. It's a very common thing that happens with some of our stronger winter nor'easters, and this is sort of a nor'easter type weather system. So we already have some yellow warnings issued by Environment Canada. They include a snowfall warning for northern areas of Nova Scotia, 15 to 25 centimeters there, and a rainfall warning out for the southwest of Nova Scotia, Yarmouth, Shelburne counties. Rainfall totals 40 to 60 millimeters, with special weather statements in effect for much of the rest of Nova Scotia, parts of southern New Brunswick and Prince Edward Island. Todd, when I come back, we'll take a closer look, more detailed breakdown of how much snow we can expect to get out of this.
All right, so we have the cold and we're going to get the snow. Feels like winter. All right, thank you, Kayla. We'll see you later for the forecast. New Brunswick Premier Susan Holt made an announcement in the St. John area today, but she was peppered with questions about an election promise she doesn't seem able to deliver after it was essentially rejected by the body that regulates gas prices. CTV's Avery McRae reports.
New Brunswickers recovering from addictions will soon be able to do so along the shores of the St. John River.
I'm proud to say that we're partnering with Edgewood Health Network Canada to establish and operate our new 50-bed therapeutic substance use treatment facility for adults.
The center will be located at Eagle's Eye View Cottages on the Kingston Peninsula. It will serve more than 100 people annually with an average stay lasting 4 to 6 months. The facility is slated to open next summer. When the floor opened to reporter questions, the topic quickly turned to the Premier's frustrations on a Friday ruling from New Brunswick's Energy and Utilities Board to essentially reverse a piece of legislation that would remove the so-called carbon cost adjuster, saving some drivers an average of 8 cents a litre. It was introduced by the Higgs administration in 2022 and aimed to help gas station owners pass down some costs to consumers, but Holt promised to scrap it during the election campaign.
It's been clear that the formula doesn't accurately cover costs that haven't been proven, and New Brunswickers deserve a break. And we were disappointed that the EUB didn't recognize that and just chose to apply a figure we've already told them is wrong to the moment at the time.
The Utilities Board is currently reviewing its decision and will have a final answer on if the cost will change in February. When asked if the board had enough time to review the changes after the legislation was passed October 30th,
we believe that a month is plenty of time to compel costs from industry and to analyze those and to put something in place. They've chosen to take more time.
The Premier says the province is currently considering their next steps. Avery McRae, CTV News, St. John.
For fans of California wine or Kentucky bourbon, today was something of a gift. Nova Scotia liquor stores began restocking shelves to sell off their inventory of American booze. As CTV's Jonathan McGinnis reports, it made for a busy morning.
The American booze wasn't staying on shelves long.
The first Saturday in May is the Kentucky Derby.
And with 3 bottles in his bag, Jerry Wombolt is making sure he has some bourbon on hand for the first leg of the Triple Crown.
Well, I left this morning to go to the liquor commission that I normally go to, and it was packed when I got there, and that was just a little after 10 o'clock. And the bourbon section, there had to be 10 or 15 people waiting for the bourbons to come out.
U.S. wines were also a popular target for shoppers.
I do understand they were selling fast. I got the very last bottle of my favorite, McManus Petit Shiraz.
The American alcohol on sale today was previously purchased and has been sitting in storage since it was yanked off store shelves back on March 4th. And as of right now, the province doesn't have any plans to buy any more. The profits from the booze sale, expected to be around $4 million, will be given to community food programs like Shabukto Connections.
It's going to allow us to continue our food supports along with enhancing our food supports.
Executive Director Christina Carter says the organization will be getting $200,000. The timing of the support means programs will continue.
Right now, we're able to give out 200 produce packs every month, and it provides folks with fresh produce and bread and eggs, and we would have had to cut that back down to maybe 50 a month.
According to the NSLC, there were 600,000 bottles in storage. The U.S. alcohol could be delayed in reaching some stores that couldn't keep it on site. Jonathan McGuinness, CTV News, Cole Harbour, Nova Scotia.
Get the Maritime's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
Despite more money in the system, a survey offers a bleak assessment of how New Brunswickers feel about the state of health care in the province. But the union representing paramedics says there does seem to be an agreement on how to move forward. Here's CTV's Nick Moore.
The new poll, conducted by Abacus Data and commissioned by the Paramedic Association of New Brunswick, found that 46% of respondents felt the quality of health care in New Brunswick had worsened over the past year, with only 25% feeling it had improved. The poll says 6 in 10 New Brunswick residents consider the current level of ambulance or paramedic service in the province to be excellent or good.
And I think we can link that to their overall sort of downward trend in their feeling about the overall healthcare system.
Chris Hood is executive director of the Paramedic Association of New Brunswick and says the poll shows that paramedics as individuals remain highly regarded.
They have the ability to be many things to many different people, and they do it daily. But I think it's a hugely underutilized service and system.
The poll found that 79% of New Brunswick residents are comfortable with the idea of paramedics playing a greater role in delivering health care, with 82% giving a favorable view of more paramedic responsibilities in a hospital emergency department.
The comfort in these potential changes in seeing paramedics serve in expanded roles in the healthcare system cuts right across the province, across regions and across other demographic groups, including voting groups. There is high comfort in every single segment with these potential changes.
Hood says advanced care paramedics are already working within the ERs in Sussex and Miramichi, with paramedics also working in the Doketown Community Health Centre. At the same time, Hood says the province is behind other parts of the world.
They are seeing the value of paramedics, and they are integrating them more exclusively into the healthcare system. We should be doing the same.
The Department of Health did not provide comment today on the poll, nor the expansion of paramedic roles within the healthcare system. Nick Moore, CTV News, Fredericton.
It's right on the license plate, Nova Scotia, Canada's ocean playground. Not necessarily a place you want to play in the winter, but there's a move to change that and sell the province as a year-round destination. CTV's Jesse Thomas has details on how they plan to do it.
Tourism is big business in Nova Scotia. Industry leaders say it brought in $3.5 billion in revenue last year and supported more than 55,000 jobs. And at this year's tourism summit, they're looking at ways to grow tourism year-round.
It's the largest really resource sector in the province. It's larger than fisheries, farming and agriculture combined. Not to diminish those, but certainly its impact is far-reaching. $3.5 billion, I don't think any sector comes close to that.
From Yarmouth to Cape Breton, the tourism industry helps drive economies in towns large and small. The industry and government have just released a 5-year plan. A major part of that is to create a year-round tourism strategy.
It is going to take a kind of a culture shift, and there's also some policies that impede people staying open longer.
A major challenge to reaching the 365-day goal will be hiring more people. There's a worker shortage, as is, and the sector relies on seasonal workers. It's a labor shortage, though, being felt by tourism operators right across the country.
There is clearly a competition for young people and other workers. The demographic has shifted such that there's just many fewer to draw from. There's also massive changes in the economy with other sectors being prioritized.
Filling frontline jobs like entry-level positions isn't the challenge. It's the skilled workers who are in demand and where smaller rural centres are struggling to fill vacancies.
They're not necessarily migrating to some of these centres because it lacks the infrastructure, lacks housing, it lacks transportation, it lacks some of the kinds of services that they may support or want, which is why they go to the larger centres.
The tourism summit will get underway tomorrow, and the industry believes this year-round push could help drive revenue to $5 billion annually by 2030. That won't be easy, but part of the 5-year plan is this new roadmap to get government and industry working better together.
All right, Jesse, thank you for that in downtown Halifax tonight. The holidays usually spark a round of hiring as stores and restaurants beef up their staff. But how easy is it, or how hard is it, to find a job this season? CTV's Sarah Plowman went to find out.
At malls across Canada, people are hunting for a deal, and some a job. Jaden Flexman landed her holiday gig at Hickory Farms, where she'll sell gourmet meats and cheeses into January.
It was a lot of applying online. There was about 200 online applications I'd done, if not more.
According to the job search site Indeed.com, holiday hiring is up 12% compared to last year, but companies aren't posting as many positions as they did 2 or 3 years ago.
There are going to be a few more options potentially out there. At the same time, job seekers are potentially competing with more of their peers.
Bernard says it's been a tough market for job seekers the past few years. Canada's unemployment rate is about 7%. The youth unemployment rate is double that.
To really get the labor market moving in the right direction, we just need a stronger overall economy.
To help keep up with holiday demand, Endeavours and Think Play in Fredericton posted one seasonal job. More than 180 applied.
We have combed through all of those resumes.
People with retail experience, but surprisingly, a lot of nurses too.
A lot of the applicants I noticed, there were multiple current positions and they're looking for a second, a third.
In Brandon, Manitoba, Toy Masters brought on new staff, including students, but had to turn dozens of people away.
It really breaks my heart to see how hard it is for a lot of these young adults and kids to be finding jobs these days.
Come January, Flexman will have another job. She has advice for anyone searching.
Just keep in mind budgeting, and paper resumes do still work sometimes, so don't give up on those.
Tips to digest when there's no avoiding a challenge. Sarah Plowman, CTV News, Fredericton.
After 6:30, we'll speak with a retail analyst about Cyber Monday and how Canadians are shopping and spending this season. And there's more reporting on all this at our website, ctvnewsatlantic.ca. People on Prince Edward Island are being urged to not be quite so polite. Mad Canada says too many islanders hesitate to call 911 when they suspect an impaired driver. They want that to change. Our Josh Smith is on the island tonight.
In its new campaign, Mad Canada is helping Prince Edward Islanders come face to face with those whose lives have been touched by drunk driving. For the first time, these new ads feature the faces of Islanders killed or injured by impaired drivers.
So Campaign 911 is encouraging the public to understand that calling 911 for impaired drivers is the right thing to do.
According to MAD, an average of 9 impaired driving charges are laid every hour in Canada, about 215 a day. In 2021, 459 Canadians died in crashes involving a drinking driver, and another 496 were killed where a driver tested positive for drugs.
One of the things that we wanted to make sure is that the human cost is out there.
PEI has some of the highest impaired driving rates in the country, nearly 3 times the national average. 27-year-old Jacob Simmons was killed by a drunk driver in 2020.
Jacob was our son. He was 27 years old when he was killed. But before that, he was a really good son, a great friend to a lot of people, very into fitness and so on, played a lot of sports. He was a huge part of our lives, and we miss him every minute.
The Simmons family was living at Point Prim when Jacob stepped up to run the family farm during his father's cancer treatment. A few months later, Jacob was killed, and his father lost his battle weeks later.
It was really rough. I want people to not think of impaired driving in Prince Edward Island as a statistic. I wanted them to think of the families and the lives that are destroyed.
Mad Canada can only guess why PEI's numbers are so high, but the hope is bringing their message to students will help change that pattern.
I think people think it's not too far from home. Maybe I don't feel that impaired. I'm going to risk it. And we're just saying to the public, it's never worth the risk.
Mad Canada says using Real Islanders in this campaign is meant to encourage others to speak up and dial 911 because that call could save a life. Josh Smith, CTV News, Summerside.
Still to come after our first break tonight, a cold early December night ahead for much of us. Kaylin returns with the full forecast. But next, trying to solve a century-old mystery.
Casualty identification is a commitment, both to the Canadian Armed Forces, to the families of the missing, and to the dead themselves.
Researchers are trying to identify a Canadian soldier from the First World War. We'll have the details after this. Researchers are on a quest to identify a Canadian soldier who was killed in the First World War, and it seems the soldier has East Coast connections. But as CTV's Annie Bergeron Oliver shows us, finding his true identity comes with many challenges.
Nearly 110 years ago, a Canadian soldier was one of more than 2,200 other Canadians who died on the Western Front, fighting to capture Hill 70 in the German stronghold of Lens, France.
These are his collar badges, so his C-13 collar badges.
Now, historians are close to finally identifying the unknown soldier, whose remains were uncovered during construction in France almost 10 years ago.
Casualty identification is a commitment, both to the Canadian Armed Forces, to the families of the missing, and to the dead themselves.
The soldier was found with coins, nail clippers, a comb, and a shoe, but it's these collar badges that narrowed down the search. The man served with the 13th Battalion Royal Highlanders of Canada, and an analysis of his remains show he was in his early 20s when he died, and between 5'5" and 5'8½". Clues that helped Canada's casualty identification team come up with a short list that includes Private Patrick Kirk, who enlisted in 1914.
Private Kirk was originally from St. John's in Newfoundland. We know this from his attestation paper. And we know that he's working as a miner in Stellarton, Nova Scotia when the war broke out. With Private Kirk, however, there are a lot of unknowns.
One of those unknowns, his name, spelled Kirk, Quirk, and even Quick. That's why the team at National Defence is asking anyone who thinks the name sounds familiar to contact them. Without a relative's DNA sample, the wartime mystery can't be solved.
Private Kirk is on our short list of candidates. He's in the right place at the right time, or rather the wrong place at the wrong time, given this context. But what this means is, with this identification process, we really need a viable DNA donor.
The goal is to give this unknown soldier his name back so he can receive a full military funeral in front of his family and finally be buried with a tombstone bearing his name and regiment. Annie Bergeron Oliver, CTV News, Ottawa.
If you're a regular watcher of the show, you may remember we spoke to Sarah Lockyer. She's a New Brunswicker working in Ottawa. She is a forensic anthropologist, and that is her team. So maybe we can help them out and solve that mystery. All right, still to come, a mix of snow and rain headed towards us tomorrow. Kaylin has the details and the full maritime forecast after this. Top of the hill in Fredericton, fair bit of traffic, -4 degrees at just about 6:30, and that says quite a bit. It's going to be, what, -4? It's going to get chillier. We got the cold. Now we want to talk, and we talked about that.
Yeah.
We want to discuss this big snowfall.
Yeah, well, get out the flannel sheets there for Fredericton because your low temperature tonight is headed down to around -12, and having that cold air in place is part of the scenario that's arriving for us basically late Tuesday into Wednesday around the Maritime. So let's run this snowfall outlook through and let's talk about this one, Todd, because it is a mixture of heavy rain and snow for the region. You could probably tell just by looking at this the approximate position that snow rain line is going to be setting up.
So this has got to be tough for meteorologists.
Yeah.
This would have been an easier forecast if that system had stayed out around Sable Island.
Yes, because then the cold air would have remained in place pretty much for the entirety of the Maritimes, and it'd just be dealing with snowfall amounts instead of trying to figure out where the rain snow line is going to set up. And in this case, it looks like it's going to be setting up right around northern areas of Nova Scotia, with the heaviest of snow taking place right along and just to the north of that line. So snowiest parts of the region with this weather system, PEI, the southeast of New Brunswick, northern areas of mainland Nova Scotia, so that would include Cumberland, Colchester counties, parts of Pictou and Antigonish counties, and the Annapolis Valley, as well as up in the Cape Breton Highlands. Now, towards Atlantic coastal Nova Scotia, that's where it's going to end up being mostly rain. So this is a tricky one because it's happening at night. There could be a scenario where, say, very early Wednesday morning, you leave downtown Halifax or Dartmouth and it's just wet roads.
Right.
But all of a sudden you get out to the airport and there's potentially, even around the airport area, maybe 10 centimeters of accumulation. So some snowy, slippery roads there. And then even more snow as you climb up to some of the higher terrain and some of the roads that are heading into the Annapolis Valley, talking about the 12, the 10, and the 8. And then, of course, Todd, the usual suspects. You got the Cobequid Pass.
Sure.
You got the 104 and around the Mount Tom area, right? Some of those roads that are climbing up to higher elevations. The Cabot Trail as it gets up into higher elevations. Then even some snowy winter driving conditions there for parts of Prince Edward Island and into the southeast of New Brunswick, where you can see about 10 to 20 centimeters.
So if you're driving tomorrow, really around the region, you got to really get a sense of where you're going, because it could be a big fluctuation.
So mostly actually Tuesday night into Wednesday.
Okay.
First part of the day tomorrow is okay. This weather system really ramps up as we go through Tuesday night into Wednesday. So yeah, be aware of where those snowfall warnings are in effect. They're right now, they're out for northern areas of Nova Scotia. And again, late Tuesday night or Wednesday, especially for the morning hours, if you're heading in one of those directions, expect to run into some, again, winter road conditions. So taking a look at our forecast timeline for cloud cover and precipitation. No real concerns for tonight other than the fact that it's going to be very cold across the entire maritime region, even cold by early December standards, and obviously a cold start to the day for tomorrow. And first part of Tuesday is just increasing cloudiness from the west of us. Now by Tuesday afternoon, some snow will begin to fall in New Brunswick. This will be light snow at first, and as we saw from that snowfall outlook with this weather system, basically across the northern half of New Brunswick, it's expected to remain as light snow. Even locations like Miramichi, Fredericton, probably going to be in that 5 to 10 centimeter range moving into Wednesday morning. As we move through Tuesday evening and Tuesday night, though, the inclement weather, it ramps up. That's when that mixture of snow and rain becomes heavier. It's when we really start to see some snow accumulation around southeastern areas of New Brunswick, parts of Prince Edward Island, and again, northern areas of Nova Scotia. Into the overnight hours, even locations in the north of Nova Scotia that maybe see an initial turnover to rain are likely to flip back over to snow before it clears out Wednesday morning. And there's going to be some high and gusty winds with this weather system as well. They're not too strong on Tuesday. They're variable in direction, relatively light, sustained 10 to 20 kilometers per hour. But they do pick up Wednesday morning into around mid-Wednesday afternoon out of the north and northeast, and some gusts. It's going to be fairly widespread, 60 to 80 kilometers per hour around parts of PEI, the southeast of New Brunswick, and areas of Nova Scotia. Low temperatures in the forecast for tonight, several degrees below zero in a lot of cases, and minus double digits widespread, especially for New Brunswick tonight. There are some low temperatures between around minus 17 to minus 12. Highs in the forecast for tomorrow in the north of New Brunswick. The colder air remains in place. The high temperatures minus 5 to minus 8. And in central and southern areas of New Brunswick, most of the high temperatures between around minus 3 and plus 1, though minus 6 at Heartland, and maybe a couple degrees above the freezing mark around the southwestern coastline. So Campobello up to 3 degrees and Grand Manan plus 2. Prince Edward Island for tomorrow with high temperatures between minus 2 and plus 1. In Cape Breton, the high temperatures between around 0 and 4 degrees for most, and between 0 and 5 degrees for the north shore and eastern shore of Nova Scotia. Northern and central parts of the province for tomorrow, most of the high temperatures between around minus 1 and plus 2. Slightly milder heading down the south shore of the province there. Some high temperatures between 3 and 5 degrees. And in the afternoon, the high temperatures for the Annapolis Valley, again, near 1 degree. So taking a look at the 7-day outlook for New Brunswick. So again, the snow will be developing beginning Tuesday afternoon, but ramps up, especially for parts of the south of the province as we move through Tuesday night into early Wednesday morning before diminishing to some flurries on Wednesday itself. Flurries on Thursday, and then the next round of very cold air arriving Thursday night into Friday. On the weekend, it's a mix of sun and cloud, and then another round of very cold air arriving Sunday night into Monday of next week. So that's going to be the pattern over the next little bit. For Nova Scotia in the forecast, we've got that heavy snow, rain mix ramping up Tuesday evening, night, ongoing into early Wednesday morning before gradual improvement through the day on Wednesday. Flurries in the forecast for Thursday. It's cold on Friday, a mix of sun and cloud, and another round of cold air arriving Sunday night into Monday. And for Prince Edward Island, coming up in the forecast, again, that snow developing basically Tuesday evening, night, ongoing into Wednesday morning, should be diminishing through Wednesday afternoon. Flurries in the forecast for Thursday, cold on Friday, and then the next round of cold air arrives arrive Sunday night into Monday, Todd.
Okay, we'll see you later in the show. Thank you. Next, we'll talk about Cyber Monday, Black Friday, how we're spending, what it looks like for retailers, all that after this. Welcome back. You might have seen the coverage earlier on 5 o'clock. This is, in fact, Cyber Monday, the day to get deals online, or it's supposed to be that anyway. Bruce Winder is a retail analyst, familiar face of the show, and he joins us from Toronto. Good to see you, Bruce.
Yeah, thanks for having me on again.
Okay, so Cyber Monday, still second to Black Friday spending in the States anyway, edging closer. Is that the case in Canada?
Yeah, same with Canada too. I mean, you know, someone did a study and they said that Canadians on average will spend about $280, I believe, today. And the averages are a little funny, but it's a massive holiday, you know. In the U.S., I think online they were looking at about $12 billion for Black Friday online, and Cyber Monday is about just over 14 billion, and they expect both holidays to grow. So yeah, this is very meaningful for us in Canada too.
So we think of, like, you know, the obvious ones, the Amazons, the giants online, but every retailer, if they have a brick and mortar, they also have an online component. Is it sort of eating their own lunch?
Well, it's sort of something you kind of have now. You know, if you're a company, you really need to have a robust online offering, because there's a number of Canadians who just don't want to go to the stores. They just want to buy everything online, whether it's for the convenience or, you know, the delivery, or just they don't like the crowds, etc. So you kind of have to do it. And you're right. I mean, Amazon is the big gun today. They're 40% off on a whole bunch of stuff. But everyone has to participate, or else you'll miss a large customer segment.
Here's one of the things I hear. You mentioned 40% off. That actually sounds like a sale. A lot of these sales, and there seems like the days are blurring together. Black Friday, Small Business Saturday, Cyber Monday. But really, in a lot of cases, the sales started a couple of weeks ago. And a lot of them are 15%, 20%, doesn't seem like much of a sale.
Yeah, it really depends on the type of item too. Like, there's certain categories within retail that are lower margin, like consumer electronics or small appliances. These are really low margin categories for retailers, so they can't afford to offer a big save store or discount. But if you go into things like consumer electronic accessories, apparel, beauty, you know, makeup, you can get some pretty good discounts because they have the margins built into them to allow retailers to discount them.
Overall, it seems spending is up, which, I mean, that's the early indications. It seems odd, given all we hear about people in their personal finances, the debt load, the household debt load in Canada. It doesn't seem to matter. We're out there shopping.
Yeah, it's a bit of a puzzle, right? Now, one thing I know is that inflation has definitely played a role in some of the sales increases we were hearing about from Black Friday in this season. We're also seeing more buy now, pay later being used, particularly with younger consumers, to defer payments. And consumers are channeling down too. They're trying to buy at lower price stores, whether it's Dollarama or, as we've talked about maybe in the past, Amazon launched a new Amazon Haul program, which is factory direct, like Shein or Temu.
Yeah.
So people are sort of looking to try to channel down, save whatever they can. But at the end of the day, with inflation, they're probably going to end up spending similar amounts to last year.
Yeah, even when you're saving, you're spending.
It's true. Yeah.
How important is this window of period? And let's call it, you know, more than the individual days. This shopping window that's lasted about a week or 10 days. How important is it for retailers? Is it vital?
It is vital, especially folks who sell gifts for retail. This could be anywhere from, you know, this last few weeks could be anything from 10 to 20% of their business. And if they don't have a good sort of holiday, call it month of November, December, they may have to go bankrupt, right? So it's really important that they're able to stay afloat. And unfortunately, we always have some folks who don't make it, but it's pretty cutthroat out there.
Yeah. Hey, we haven't heard much about this, but it was big talk the last couple of winters. Gift cards made up a big segment of gifts. Are you hearing that kind of rumbling again this year, or have we gone back to the more, you know, sort of physical?
Yeah, I'm hearing that gift cards are making a bit of a resurgence this year because you kind of push the inflation to the receiver of the gift. You know, you can still buy a $25 gift card. Unfortunately, the person receiving it might not get as much product for the $25, but at least you know you're not getting inflation on that. So I'm hearing a bit of an increase in that, despite some of the issues with theft and crime on gift cards.
What would be an indication to you that this has been a robust shopping season? What are the metrics? What will you be looking for?
Well, I'll be looking for things like retail sales increase. I'll be looking at units. I'm not sure they really report units, but anecdotally from some of the big software companies like Salesforce or Adobe, what's happening with units, because units tell a big story. Look at different retailers' earnings. So, you know, how Amazon does, Dollarama, Walmart, Canadian Tire, looking at their earnings and listening to them in January to see sort of how they've done from a financial perspective.
I think it's interesting. You mentioned Dollarama, and here in the Maritimes, we're now seeing Dollar Tree, that big company out of the U.S. Coming in. Are they really that big now that you would include them into Christmas shopping?
They are. You know what? A lot of people are struggling, and they have to buy a lot more from these dollar stores because, you know, some of the dollar stores are cheaper than if you went to, say, Walmart or another store to try to get something. So a lot of people have gravitated to these dollar type stores just to spend less on basics and essentials, particularly if you're a senior or a student.
Yeah. So maybe in terms of, you know, buying your essentials for the Christmas period, like the Christmas dinner and that type of thing.
Yeah, wrapping paper, you know, ribbons, tags, all the little trinkets that might be under $5. You can get a lot of them at a bit of a lower price than some of the other retailers.
You think Dollarama's in for a fight now that these others are starting to come in?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, Dollar Tree's been here for a few years, but they are expanding. They're absolutely massive in the U.S., but Dollarama hasn't sat still. They've expanded. They bought a company in Australia, a dollar store in Australia called the Reject Shop, and they're also expanding in Mexico. So they're trying to sort of diversify their business to keep the gravy train rolling, so to speak.
Okay. Bruce Wonder, thank you very much. It's always fascinating to find out what's going in, you know, what's going on in our heads when we head out the door to do shopping or stay online to do it, and we appreciate your insight.
Yeah, anytime. Have a great day.
Okay, we'll talk to you again soon. We'll take a time out. We'll be back with much more of your show. In health headlines tonight, there's a broccoli recall to tell you about. CTV's Amanda Debison has that in the Monday edition of The Lifeline.
A brand of broccoli sold in 6 provinces has been recalled due to possible salmonella contamination. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency says the Your Fresh Market product was sold across Atlantic Canada as well as Ontario and Quebec. The agency is urging consumers not to consume, use, sell, or serve the broccoli as it can make you sick. New illnesses have been linked to the products, but the investigation is ongoing, which may lead to additional recalls. New recommendations for prescribing medications that can prevent HIV infection are in pursuit of Canada's goal to eliminate it as a public health threat by 2030. The Public Health Agency of Canada says there was a 35% increase in new cases from 2022 to 2023, with just over 2,400 diagnoses. Infections have heavily affected some Indigenous communities, with more cases in Saskatchewan and Manitoba than the national average. Finally, the holiday season is a time for giving gifts and thanks, but for many, it's also a time for giving back. Researchers who study human evolution and social psychology say that giving back is deeply rooted in human nature. Psychologist Sarah Schnittker says feeling grateful for what we have motivates us to do good things for others. Volunteers, in turn, say they feel closer ties to the communities they serve. Tomorrow is Giving Tuesday, a chance to give back after shopping Black Friday and Cyber Monday sales. With health and medical news, I'm Amanda Debison for The Lifeline.
Katie's off tonight, so we've parked the scene for this evening. We're going to go back to more shopping. And with rising costs, more Maritimers, especially young Maritimers, have turned to thrifting. A vintage market on the weekend drew many shoppers looking for unique pieces and really good prices. And our Jesse Thomas was there.
If you were looking for a Christmas gift with character, you'd find it here at the Halifax Vintage Christmas Market, where many were hunting for secondhand treasures to gift this year.
I was hoping to find some like little knickknacks for my sister because that's what she collects. Maybe some records for my friends because they all love records. So.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I know for myself, a lot of my family members, the best gifts that they usually give are the vintage ones.
For many, this is more fun than shopping online and more personal too. And gifting secondhand is no longer something that's frowned upon.
I read a report this week that said 44% of shoppers this year are considering offering secondhand or vintage gifts for Christmas. It's every year it's like shifting more and more that it's becoming normal.
This carefully curated Christmas show drew big crowds over the weekend, folks looking for a gift with a story and some nostalgia.
You're seeing younger and younger people coming to these shows and shopping vintage and upcycling and recycling, and I just think like the world we live in now, it's such a great thing to do, and it saves you money and it saves the planet.
Because at Christmas, it's still the thought that counts, and a carefully selected vintage present can seem like a gift straight from the heart.
More special when you get to shop in person and like touch the items and see them in person, and also you know that you're supporting local businesses.
And many are looking to support local too.
Or you can buy secondhand and support smaller businesses too. It's like you're kind of doing best of both worlds.
Proving secondhand can make for first-rate gifts. Jesse Thomas, CTV News, Halifax.
The markets got off to a rough start this week. The Dow Jones opened the trading week down 427 points. Algoma is laying off 1,000 workers as the steel maker in Quebec grapples with the effects of those American tariffs. Details from B&M Bloomberg's Morella Fernandez.
The announcement affects about 40% of the company's staff. Steel sales to the U.S. have plummeted since Washington put a 50% markup on Canadian steel. Algoma reported an almost $90 million expense related to tariffs in its third quarter. The company has been given an emergency loan of $500 million from the Ottawa and Ontario governments as it tries to find new markets for its product. Here are the closing numbers for the day. The Canadian dollar is down to 71.44. West Texas Intermediate crude is up to 59.32. Western Canadian Select is down today to 45.81. And the TSX shed 281 points, ending the day at 31,101. Those are your business headlines. I'm Morella Fernandez.
Kaylin is out on a chilly weather deck.
Yeah, and a little bit of a light shower, almost a flurry making its way through right now, and a very cold night ahead across the Maritimes. So let's take a look at our viewer picture for tonight, and it's a very nice one. It's a beautiful sunrise picture coming in from Diane Kendall, sent in from Moncton, New Brunswick. I want to thank Diane very much for taking the time to share that. Moncton for tomorrow, very cold in the morning, increasing cloudiness throughout the day, and then we've got some snow that'll be developing late in the day on Tuesday. Remember, snow developing across New Brunswick, moving through the afternoon into the first part of the evening. Day planner for tomorrow in the morning. Most temperatures around the Maritimes will be several degrees below the freezing mark, some down into the minus double digits. That's that cold air moving into place tonight. And then for the afternoon, you can see through the blues, that's the snow developing for New Brunswick. There will also be a heavy snow-rain mix that fills in across Nova Scotia as we head through Tuesday evening and Tuesday night. Let's find out what's coming up on Your Morning Atlantic.
Tuesday on Your Morning Atlantic, on your mark. The next edition of the Amazing Race Canada is just around the corner, and producers are signing up teams. Find out how you can apply. Start your morning with us Tuesday on CTV2 and live on Crave.
And that will do it for us on this Monday. That is our look at the day here at home. Bruce Frisco is here with the late update at 11:30. You can now watch us live on Crave each evening. CTVNewsAtlantic.ca has updates. I'm Todd Battis. Hope to see you tomorrow. Good night.
CTV News, the Maritime's #1 newscast. Watch live on Crave.